This video is brought to you by Sailrite. Visit Sailrite.com for all your project supplies, tools, and instructions. In this video tutorial, we're going to be showing you how to make your very own magnetic door screen. This one's made for a yacht, but it's also great for an RV or a home.
Just pull on the tabs, the magnets release, and now you've got excellent airflow, and we don't have any of those pesky little bugs coming in. There you go.
We'll be using self-adhesive snaps on our hard surface so we don't have to drill holes into the fiberglass. They're called YKK SNADs, and everywhere else we'll be using magnets. Those magnets will also use a VHB glue so they can easily be removed if desired. No drilling. At the top, straps with hook and loop. The first step in making one for yourself is measuring the door. What we want to do is we want to measure the height and the width. And we want to account for approximately 2 inches of overlap around the top, bottom, and sides. This overlap around the perimeter will allow for our snaps and our magnets, and it'll also help to keep those pesky bugs out.
This is a fiberglass mesh fabric that's coated in a vinyl, and it's got a really nice hand. It's not too light and not too heavy. We're going to be using it for our screen application. So I'm using a T-square here and just marking a straight line along this edge because it's not cut straight from Sailrite. The width for our screen, our finished width, is 29.5. We need to put a double hem on both edges. We're going to do a 1/2 inch double hem. So we need to add 2 inches, so that's 31.5. So I'm going to mark at 31.5 inches here. I'm going to mark up the fabric at a few points so that I can make a straight line, and I love to use the chalk to mark this material because it easily comes off and it's very visible. I'm using a white chalk. Now I'm going to rotate the fabric around because we have to measure for the length, and I think I'll be able to fit it on the table, so I'm going to roll it around so I can hopefully fit it on the table. Our length is 69.5, and we want a 1-inch double hem at the top and a 1-inch double hem at the bottom. So that means I need to mark it at 73.5. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay, now we just match up all those marks that we made to make our rectangle. We're striking lines, cut lines on the material. I'm using a cutting mat and a rotary cutter, and I placed my straight edge on the inside to help protect me from actually making mistakes with my cut, so I can never cut with the actual usable fabric. And I'll cut on each one of these cut lines.
Now that our fabric's cut to size, it's time to create the hems.
So we need to create a double hem here on the long sides, both sides, and that double hem is 1 inch. I'm going to use the Sailrite canvas patterning ruler and strike a line because I want these hems to be accurate. I'm going to strike a line at 1 inch. So what I do is I'm going to use a different marking pencil rather than the chalk, which works well too. You don't have to buy chalk and this. You can use one or the other. This is the Scriball white marking pencil. I'm going to place it in the 1-inch hole. Then I'm going to carefully and slowly strike a line down the edge of the fabric, keeping the Sailrite canvas patterning ruler up against the edge of the fabric as I do this. Since this fabric has a vinyl coating, these marks will easily come off with a rag in water. Now we'll do the same thing to the opposite side at 1 inch. Now we have two options for creating or keeping this hem in place. We can use the Wonder Clips, or we can use multi-use pins and attach it to this hem. We can't really use double-sided tape because double-sided tape shows through the fabric because there's such wide holes. So what I'm going to do to create the double hem is I'm going to fold the fabric over to that line that we struck. I'm not going to create a second line, and then I'm going to fold along the edge of that fabric. That creates our double hem. Then I will use Wonder Clips and I will secure it in place with those. And then as I come down the fabric, I'll find that line, fold the fabric over, make sure that it looks consistent, and it does, and insert another wonder clip. And I'm going to do this every few inches because I want this to be very accurate and very straight. So you actually get pretty fast at this. You can see that what I do is I spread my fingers apart like this, and then I just slide my wonder clip in. It's pretty quick. After a few clips, you're like, hey, this isn't so bad. You can see the wonder clip has, I'll show you here on camera, it has a flat side here, and then the colored side is at the top. The flat side is perfect for putting against the tabletop like this and sliding it into place. So once you have a specific hem in place the way you like it, you just slide it underneath and let it go. Okay, once you're done with the side, you should really sight down it and make sure that everything looks nice and straight, and if you need to, make adjustments. Okay, we finished one side. Now we're going to do the next side. Or you can take this over to the sewing machine and sew it, and then do the next side. That's your choice. Now it's always a good idea to take some scrap and fold it so that you have two layers and sew through it to make sure that your tension is set appropriately. We don't want too much extra tension, otherwise it'll cause a waviness to the hems. And I'm sewing with a 6mm stitch length in this because it'll help to alleviate shrinkage and also wrinkling of the fabric. It's very hard to see where the knots are falling, but looks like they are falling somewhere near the middle of the fabric, and I'm using V69 and a size number 16 needle. Okay, so we have our hem over at the sewing machine, and I'm obviously going to have to take off clips as I come to them. So I'm going to take off that first clip, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a magnetic guide with not as much in the front so I can remove clips as I come to them, but basically I want it right beside the outside presser foot. And I can move my needle in straight stitch to the left, center, or right, and I think I want it off to the left side so that I get my stitch pretty close to the edge over here. I'm going to move this guide, so there it goes. Now it's solid. So here's where I'm going to start sewing, and I will not do any reversing here because we're going to have a double hem coming across the top, and all I want to do is just keep it nice and straight as I sew. So once I get to one of these wonder clips, I'll just remove it. All I do is sew up to the wonder clip before it reaches the magnetic guide, and then I remove it and I hold my finger over the hem. Okay, so it's always a good idea to check. We probably should have done this before we sewed, but I'm at 29.5 exactly. That's perfect. At the top, we want to create a 1-inch double hem, so I'm going to place a line at 2 inches here. Okay, so now we'll take the edge of the fabric, fold it back to the 2-inch line, creating a 1-inch hem. Then we'll fold it again, creating another 1-inch hem, thus using up 2 inches of fabric. We'll place our fingers like this and slide in the wonder clip. And we'll do this all along this edge here.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm using the table here, kind of like a square. And I'm lining up this edge, and then I'm checking to make sure that the top is perfectly square and nice and straight. And it looks like it's just about perfect. If anything, this one needs adjusted slightly inward, like that. So good, we got a great edge. Okay, I'm going to remove this first wonder clip, and I'm going to position my magnetic guide so that my stitch is very close to that inside edge again. Right about there. Okay. Oh, that's a little bit too far. There we go. Now here I want to do a little bit of reversing. Okay, and then we'll just sew along like we did before. Then when we reach the end, we want to do some reversing there as well.
In order for the screen door to close appropriately, we need to add drapery weights to the bottom edge as we create that hem. That's what we'll do next.
Here we're striking a line 2 inches from the edge. We're going to create another double hem, 1 inch double hem. And in this hem, we're going to place some drapery weights. These are drapery weights. You can sew in the middle of them, and they are made of lead and they're coated with a white paint. They're excellent for applications where you want to hang something and have it be weighted at the bottom. So I'm going to just start creating my double hem and using the wonder clips like we did before. Now these drapery weights should go into the hem with this bar going horizontal to the edge because it's a little bit shorter in width this way than it is this way. So I'm going to insert this into the hem, and I'm going to fold it into that 1 inch double hem and place my wonder clip beside it. Now we can move those after we have them inserted in the hem, so don't be alarmed at the specific position you want them yet. I'm going to take another one, making sure the bar is horizontal, insert it into the hem, fold it back.
The number of drapery weights is completely up to you. We recommend they be spaced anywhere from 6 to 8 inches apart. We will not be installing any drapery weights at the corners because there we'll be using magnets later on.
Okay, so I'm going to check for squareness again, putting the screen up against the edge of the table, checking to make sure the top is nice and square and straight, and it looks just about perfect. And then I've decided, for me, I want these spaced about every 8 inches apart. So this one's perfect. I'm going to move my wonder clip right alongside of it. Of course, this can be done after we sew as well. I just want to make sure that I like the spacing that I have. 8 inches would be right here. So we're going to move this one. 8 inches may be too much. Yeah, 8 inches is too much. So I'm going to have to reduce that to, let's say, 6 inches. So I'm going to go 6 inches and move this one back. I'm just going to put a mark with the white pencil right along the edge so that we know exactly where these go. These marks will come off with a wet rag. The drapery weights make the hem a little bit bigger, but that's not a big deal. I mean, we're going to be very close to our measurement that we wanted. So I'm going to lower my foot. Now I can't sew over the drapery weight, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just do some sewing and then reversing. This locks the drapery weight in place. Then I will lift my needle out of the fabric, lift my presser foot, and push my drapery weight into the position that I want it, move the hem over and lower my presser foot. I'm basically on top of that drapery weight, but my needle's not going to go through it. And then I'm going to sew here. do a little bit of reversing into the drapery weight. Whoops. You may have to help the fabric go to the drapery weight because it wants to walk over that bump. I'm going to move my wonder clip and sew it to the next drapery weight.
Later on, we decided to remove the drapery weight at the corner and instead use magnets. So eventually you'll see that drapery weight gone at the corner.
Okay, when I get to this one, I'm going to do some reversing right here. I'm going to lift my presser foot. I'm going to push the drapery weight back on top of that stitching that I just did. I'm going to move this drapery weight back. I'm going to lower my presser foot here. I'm going to start sewing here, doing a little bit of reversing, moving my wonder clip. And then sew to the next one.
Next, we'll install pull tabs and magnets.
To find the center here on the sides, I'm just going to fold it in half and mark it with my chalk or my scribe ball pencil on this side. And we'll also do the same thing over here so that we have it perfectly centered on both.
We'll be using magnets at the center position and also at the bottom corners, but you can install more if you like, which is often a good idea.
Okay, we're using a grosgrain polyester binding or ribbon, and I'm going to cut it to about 7 inches. This is going to form a tab. We actually have one tab done already on this side, and you can see it's a loop, and inside of this pocket on the other side is a magnet, and that's what we're going to be making here, so that we can just pull the magnet from the hard surface that has a magnet on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some basting tape on the sides, not going very deep, just about 1 inch or so in, and I'm going to peel off the transfer paper, revealing the glue, and then make sure the double-sided tape is folded back so it doesn't protrude from the edges, and I'm going to put it on the underside. Now this is the side with the hem on it. You can see the hem here. So we're going to put it on that side because that's the side we want the magnet to be on, right over top of our mark, and we're going to go in about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, right about there. So that measures 1.5 inches. Okay, then I'm going to take this with the excess double-sided tape, and I'm going to stick this directly on the edge right up against here. Then I'm going to take double-sided tape and put it on top of the hem, just the width, which is 1 inch of this binding or ribbon. And then I'm going to fold this back so everything's on top of itself like this. Okay. And now what we'll do is we'll lift this up, and with our white scribe ball pencil, we're going to mark where this falls right here, because this is where we're going to stop sewing or start sewing. Now we can take it to the sewing machine. So I'm going to put it in the machine and lay that flat, and I'm going to start sewing very close to the raw edge at that white line that we marked. And my needle bar is off to the right. I think I'm going to reposition so I can see. There we go. Make sure the webbing's on top evenly, and it is. Okay, we'll start sewing down this leg, doing a little bit of reversing at the beginning. And sew to the edge and do some reversing there. Then we'll lift it up and we'll move it to the opposite side and repeat that process. All right, now we're going to cut our loose threads, and I'll show you what's next. this is the magnet that's going to go on the hard surface. It has a VHB glue on the back side. So we need to determine which direction this magnet goes, because obviously the polarity, or I don't know what they call this, it wants to stick that side, but if you do this side, it's very reactive. It doesn't like to have a magnetic bond. So this is the side that we want to be facing out. And what we'll do with that side facing out is stick it in the pocket on the underside here. So I'm going to open up this edge right there, because we haven't sewn it shut, and I will force it in deep into that pocket all the way to the hemmed edge. When you run into your hem, you may have to kind of force it past that hem. There we go. So our our magnet, it looks like a tic tac, is all the way at the edge. Now confirm that it's right. So, yep, see how it sticks nicely? You wouldn't want it to be reactive. You want it to be active that way. So now, if I sew with this down, it's going to stick to the bed of the sewing machine like crazy, kind of bam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this so that I can sew so that it doesn't really want to stick to the bed of the sewing machine. And I will position, I could use a roping zipper foot left, but I'm not. I'm going to just position it as close to that presser foot as possible, and then I'm going to lower the presser foot at that position, and I'm going to move my needle bar to the right to get closer to the magnet, and I'm going to sew, closing up the magnet within this pocket. And then I'm going to do it in reverse.
The actual pull tabs only need to be installed at the center locations on both sides of the screen, but you may want to install more magnets. To do that, just use the grosgrain polyester binder.
And now she is contained in that pocket. We have these drapery weights at the bottom. We had 4 of them in there, but we decided to only put 3 in here right in the middle, and on the sides we're going to put a magnet in here. So we've removed one of them. And to do that, now I opened this up to get the drapery weight out, so I think I'm going to close this back up here. Okay, so that hem is closed back up again. Okay, here you can see we have our small magnet, and this is the correct side. I just did the test like that, and I'm going to insert it inside this hem like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it way out of the way for now, and then I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to push it as close as I can to that stitch, and I'm going to close it on this other end. It sticks to the sewing machine like this, which makes it hard to sew, so I'm going to flip it like that. Now it doesn't stick. And we're going to put this closure stitch really close to the edge. My needle's in center position, so this hopefully will, yep, right there. That should do it. Now I'm going to lift my foot, and I'm going to push this well into that edge like that, and then I'm going to put it in the machine again, and I'm going to sew as close as I can to the magnet like we did on the other ones. Move my needle to the right and do a little bit of reversing here and forwarding. There we go. Now I trim up my threads, and my magnet is installed in that corner. Now we'll do this exact same thing to the opposite corner. We'll not show that.
We'll install snaps along the top, then on the boat, adhesive snaps so we don't have to drill a hole.
Okay, we're going to use the press and snap tool. Sailrite does sell other tools that are less expensive to install snaps, but I love using this tool. And we're going to install nickel-plated snaps into our hem. So the button goes in this side, and then the socket goes up here and snaps into position. Now you must make sure that you get the socket on the correct side. The socket goes on the side with the hem. And we're going to put a snap at the corner up here, right at the corner. And this will kind of determine the position of all of our snaps as far as up and down. And that snap is installed. Then we will install one on this corner in the same location up and down. So I'm just looking to see that it's right at the same spot as the other one, and it looks like it is. There we go. And to find the center, I'll fold it right in half and crease that fabric. That's the dead center. I'm going to actually mark it here so I don't lose my spot. And we'll install one more. Same process.
We want the screen door to roll up when it's not in use, so we're going to add some Velcro straps next.
We're going to cut our grosgrain polyester ribbon or binding to 11 inches. We've determined that that's about the right length. So when we wrap or roll this all the way to the top and want to strap it, this will be folded directly in half and be sewn onto the top edge, going over the back side, or under the back side I should say, and over the top side. And then it'll have Velcro on it, and it will Velcro to itself, like that. So first thing we want to do is we want to sew Velcro onto this. Then we want the loop Velcro here. We want the hook Velcro back here. Okay, so let's just write on it so we know. Okay, we're going to cut hook and loop Velcro to 1.5 inches, just with scissors. One more. Good. And we will apply basting tape to all 4 of these pieces because we're going to put 2 straps on it. So just on the back side, right in the middle. And I marked H on this side. So we basically just want, at the ends, we want it to be on opposite sides. So loop here. We want it right on top of there, centered. So it's perfectly placed. And the hook here. Like that. And we'll make one more strap for the other side. Okay, we're going to sew this on. Do some reversing at the beginning. And we will do this just on the 2 outside edges, because I don't think you need to do any more. To both the hook and the loop. Now when you do the hook, it doesn't look as nice when you sew it because for some reason the hook always makes the thread look like it's riding on top of the hooks, but that's customary and normal, so don't let that alarm you. And we'll show you that here in a second after I get this other leg on. Okay, you can see here this actually looks pretty good, mainly because we didn't really fall on the loop, but sometimes it'll look like it's got loose stitches here, mainly because the stitch is falling on top of those loops. This one actually looks really good. There we go. So we do that to our second loop, our second strap as well. I'm going to take the loop side, this is the hook side over here, I'm going to fold it in half So the loop is facing that way, and then I'm going to take my white pencil and I'm going to put a little line on this fold. Okay, I'll do that same thing over here. Loop side down on top of this, hook sides on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to put the straps about, there's no hard fast rule, but about 4 inches from the edge. So I'm going to mark 4 inches here, and I'm going to mark 4 inches here. And what I will do, what will I do? I'm going to put double-sided tape right in the middle of that, going no larger than 1 inch. I'm going to peel the transfer paper up, and I'm going to take this with the loop side, this is the loop side, and put the hook side underneath to my center position, which I marked right there. Probably should have marked it on this side. There it is, right there. And base that down right to there's our white mark. So we will sew this on, and we're going to do the same thing over here. Now I flipped it over, and I'm going to put basting tape here too, because I just want that fold to fall in the right spot. So that basting tape is going to keep that right in half, right where I want it. I'm going to do it over here too. I'm just going to sew right along this edge. Which is basically right on top of our previous stitches. I'm going to sew across, and then I'm going to do reversing. Okay, that one's on. Now we just need to do the same thing to the next one. Okay, so the idea is that you roll it up, and this strap will be hanging down, and this one just comes over, and you Velcro it together. Now the straps, after looking at it, may be a little bit on the short end. You have to roll it awful tight if you want it to actually strap. So you may want to make your straps a little bit longer, but that's the general idea.
Next, we'll be installing the screen. We're going to use YKK SNADs to do this.
So we're ready to install our door screen, and we did not want to use studs that you have to drill and screw into the fiberglass. We didn't want any holes in this fiberglass, so we're using a YKK SNAD, which is a self-adhesive snap. We have 2 already installed here that we've put in previously. And what you want to do is you want to put these YKK SNADs onto the snaps of the screen, and then position it and put them in place where you desire them. Now we've already prepped the surface with an alcohol prep pad and a rag, so it's nice and clean. It's ready to be installed. You can see that in our other videos. So now we're going to remove the transfer paper from the back, revealing the VHB glue. And what I'm going to do before I stick it in place is I'm going to position this one, since I've already got it installed. So I'm going to snap it in place. And I've positioned it right along the top of this fiberglass, the transition here. Just push it in place and hold it for, I believe it's about a minute. So we'll come back in a second. Next, we installed these high-powered adhesive magnets at the locations that we installed the magnets on the door screen. And here's how it works. Look at that. Now she's ready for use. Just pull on the tabs, the magnets release, and now you've got excellent airflow, and we don't have any of those pesky little bugs coming in. There you go.
Don't go away, the materials and tools list is next. We used a fiberglass mesh called Charcoal, which is a 60-inch wide fabric with a vinyl coating. It's great for applications like this. Also highly recommended is the YKK SNAD, the self-adhesive snap stud. If you have any questions about the materials or tools that we used, give us a call or email us. We're glad to help. I'm Eric Grant, and from all of us here at Sailrite, thanks for watching.